Wanna give up on life? Are you convinced that humanity will not make it past 2050? Great, this video's for you, little bitch. Doomerism is the idea of giving up. We had a good run, folks, let's just call it quits and die. It mostly comes up when discussing climate change, or war, economic issues. Quite a popular thing right now in 2022. Doomerism isn't a new thing either. Every generation on Earth thinks they're important enough to witness the end of everything. However, my generation, Gen Z, really took that philosophy and turned it into our aesthetic. And it isn't completely unreasonable either. Well, it is. It's an unreasonable reaction to reasonably shitty things. It's not like the generation of our parents didn't struggle. They went through the Cold War period, where humanity could have gone extinct for real. However, nowadays we're being bombarded by news all the time, so that makes everything worse. I love the news. Think about popular media. How many times have you seen Earth die, civilization crumble, people just end? And now compare that to how many times you've seen an actually optimistic view of the future, where humanity actually makes it, and we're largely fine. Of course, there are storytelling reasons for this. It's just more interesting to see society collapse, I guess. But it's quite telling of how bad the issue is when for the first question I could make a list for 10 hours, and for the second question, Star Trek? Tomorrowland? Yeah. There really isn't that much optimistic sci-fi. So that's Doomerism. Everyone is thinking everything sucks and we're all gonna die, so nothing is worth it in the end. Now I'm gonna tell you why that's super dumb. Doomerism made pessimism mainstream. People don't think we have a future anymore, and that might actually result in us not having a future anymore. It prohibits long-term thinking, making it nearly impossible for any one of us to imagine an actual good future we could work towards. If most people are convinced the future will suck, then so it will. I mean, why should we change if we'll just die anyway? Fucking idiot. There's so many things tying into Doomerism. It's not just straight up saying we will all die, it's also the weirdly common sentiment of humans are the cancer of the earth and we all deserve to die. Which, damn, okay, you must really hate children, because I'd wager they'd like a future someday. It's also in the communication of movements and organizations. Fridays for Future, I genuinely love you. I really do. You're a promising sign for why the future can be good. However, telling people they will die is not motivating. Blaming average Joe for climate change because he has to take his car to work is not productive. It's not the entire movement that's like this, but enough of you that this is how people perceive you as. If you want to change people's minds, you shouldn't yell at them about how shitty they are. We need that motivation by telling people that there's actual hope. Let me convince you of that hope. So I'm sure you've heard the news. The planet's burning. I'm not gonna burn plastic. But it's burning less than we predicted in the past. Yay. 10 years ago, we predicted a 4 to 5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature by 2100. That would have been fucking apocalyptic. And it's still what most public discourse is based on this apocalyptic future where climate change just kills all of us. But that's no longer where we are heading. Coal is dying. It probably won't be used much in a few years. We're building actual renewable energies at record speeds because they are now even cheaper than fossil fuels. Fossil fuels. And nearly every nation now has a pledge for climate neutrality by 2050 or even before that. That's amazing news that we didn't have a decade ago. We have successfully limited warming to 3 degrees Celsius by 2100. We have avoided the literal climate apocalypse. And no one's talking about this. And now we need to keep that momentum going to limit those 3 degrees down to 3 degrees, to take those 3 degrees and limit them to 2. And then see where we can go from there, maybe even 1.5. Climate change isn't solved by any means, but we can still not only avoid the worst, we can also prepare for the bad things. Nukes are a thing we invented and they're a bad thing no matter how you feel about them. And I don't want to hear some alternate history shit like, without nukes, the Cold War would have turned into an actual war and millions would have died. Yeah, I don't care. I'm talking 2022 and they're a bad and shitty idea now. But we have reduced their numbers. Since the 1980s, we've actually reduced the number of nukes by 85%, from a high of 64,000 down to about 9,400. We have reduced access to them. And we've started movements and organizations whose main goal is to get rid of these bitches. They are still a major danger, especially with some nations publicly threatening their use. Why? But even here we've made some progress. Free market capitalism sucks ass. We can argue about the best economic system, but we should all agree that labor rights are important. Poverty sucks ass. And the exploitation of the global south is a dick move. And even here, we can see some positivity. Many people are quitting their jobs in what is called the Great Resignation because they finally demand proper treatment. We don't accept shitty hours, low pay, and terrible conditions anymore. And this is where I gotta applaud millennials and Gen Z. What boomers are calling entitlement is really just us demanding rights. Let's keep that going! Let's push corporations further off a cliff.
This is Sparta!
Let them know that we have the power and see how we can actually make work and life more enjoyable. The base issue with everything I just listed is that we always talk about how shitty the things are and never discuss solutions, which we need to. It's not time to give up hope yet. Do that when civilization lays crumbled at man's feet, not when we can still change course, not when we are currently changing course. If humanity is not dying out, if we have a future, then what will we do? Who the fuck has any idea? Well, maybe you do? Imagine the future. What should change? Economically, politically, socially. What do you want and why? And be public with this, because there's no single right or wrong answer here. Discuss with others. What do they want? Exchange ideas and thoughts. This is what exchange looks like. And if people don't want to participate, if they just go against everything that's new just because it's new, if people genuinely argue with, these darn SJWs, then leave them. They don't contribute to the conversation at hand. They are only reacting, which is why we call them reactionaries. So ignore them. Don't feed the troll, one of the ancient rules of the internet that always seems to be forgotten. It's their fault if they don't want to participate in debate. But you participate, contribute, talk about the shit you're interested in, whether it be in comment sections, making YouTube videos, or in real life with friends. The world is a little shitty, but we are fixing it and we need to keep going. Fuck your pessimism.